Let's remember the scale of temperature and how it works. So what happens if I decrease, or if you decrease the temperature below 0 degrees? Or what happens if you increase the temperature from below the freezing point of water to a greater temperature? So these questions, these type of questions are the questions that you can solve using addition and subtraction of integers. And the objective of this video is for you to understand how we can get the idea of addition of integers and how we can understand the addition of integers by generalizing the information using absolute values. So we're going to go right now with this part. Let's go. So to start with, how to add or subtract integers, let's use the scale of temperature, and let's use how we can change the temperature of any object to know what happened with our temperature. So imagine that you have the temperature. Let's imagine that the temperature that we have is imagine that the temperature that we have is just 3 centigrade degrees. So imagine that you're here, this is the temperature of something, and I want to decrease the temperature of these 3 centigrade degrees. I want to decrease it to -5 centigrade degrees. So my objective is to do this decreasing of temperature. So what I need to do is to move from this point that I'm doing here until this point that it's here, that it's -5 centigrade degrees. So here I have 3 centigrade degrees, here I have -5 centigrade degrees. So, and I want to know how many, or what was this decrease of temperature, how many degrees I passed from 3 to -5. So in this case, if I use my thermometer or the number line that I have here, I just need to observe that the units that I decrease are given by this interval. And this interval is just the 3 centigrade degrees that are here and the 5 centigrade degrees that are here. So what I did is just to decrease my temperature by 8 centigrade degrees, right? Because I was here at 3 and I decreased 8 centigrade degrees to get to -5 centigrade degrees. So this idea in terms of expressions will be that 3 centigrade degrees minus 8 centigrade degrees is going to be -5 centigrade degrees. Oh, I'm writing in the other part. So I'm going to write it here. 3 centigrade degrees minus 8 centigrade degrees is going to be -5 centigrade degrees. So this is what I'm doing here in this expression that I'm showing in the situation. We can have more examples to observe what happened if I change different temperatures. Let's do another example. So I can use another example. Let's erase here to do another example. So let's imagine that now my initial temperature is not 3 centigrade degrees. I'm not in 3 centigrade degrees, but I'm in -5 centigrade degrees. So I'm here. And I want to increase the temperature. I want to increase the temperature until I reach the 6 centigrade degrees. So I'm here in -5 centigrade degrees. Let's say that you have ice or any liquid or any solid that is at -5 centigrade degrees, and I want to increase, I want to heat it up. I want to get it warmer until 6 centigrade degrees. I want to move here until 6 centigrade degrees. Now my question is, what was the increase? How much is this increase? And how can I write it like in an expression? This is the idea that you think. So if you want to pause the video and tell what do you think we can do, just pause the video and observe. Now, so if you can see here, if I want to increase from negative 5 centigrade degrees to 6 centigrade degrees, I need to move the 5 centigrade degrees that are here and the 6 centigrade degrees that are here. So this becomes 11 centigrade degrees. So in this case, what we're doing, if you want to write it as an equation, is going to be that negative 5 centigrade degrees plus 11 centigrade degrees equals 6 centigrade degrees. And in this way, I have the addition of integers. This is how you can understand the addition of integers. Now, there are many ideas that you can use following this information to identify and generalize the addition of integers. If you still have problems to use integers, I suggest you that every time you're going to add any integers, picture a number line. Picture this exercise of the temperature. And imagine what's going to happen if you heat up or if you're going to get colder an object. So if you're going to freeze something or you're going to warm something, how to do it in a thermometer or in a number line. This is one good idea that you can use if you want to follow how to add integers. In this case, we did many equations of how to add integers. Now, we're going to see how to generalize this idea, how we can generalize the idea of adding integers. This is our objective now. How can I generalize the idea of adding integers? What do you think will be the best way that we can use to add integers? In terms of what we're going to do is just to imagine or to understand some important idea, that is, how can you picture an integer in a number line? So we're going to see how you can picture an integer in a number line. If you understand how to picture an integer in a number line, so you will be able to, now after you picture the number, you will be able to get this number in many situations, and if you can put it in many situations, you can add them and subtract them. So what we're going to work on, I'm going to show you now the board. Now my board has an x-axis that is going to be my number line. I'm just going to erase this so you can observe what happens if I have my number line. And I want that you picture negative numbers and positive numbers or any number in a number line as an arrow. So we're going to imagine that each number is an arrow. So let's say that, for example, I'm going to picture positive 5. So positive 5, I'm going to imagine that is an arrow that goes from 0 to positive 5. And this is going to be called my number 5. So imagine that positive 5 is just an arrow that goes from 0 to 5. This is going to be the integer 5. And the negative numbers, so in this case the negative numbers are going to be arrows, but these arrows goes from 0 to the negative number. So let's imagine that I'm going to picture negative 6. So negative 6 is going to be an arrow that starts at 0 and goes to the left until negative 6. So this is going to be my number, negative 6. So this is the strategy I want that you observe, because positive numbers are going to be arrows pointing to the right and negative numbers are going to be arrows pointing to the left. Now, how can I know the length of the arrow? The length of the arrow is going to tell me the magnitude of this arrow. The length of the arrow is going to tell me the number that I'm using. So for example, the length of this arrow is going to be 5, right? and the length of this arrow is going to be 6. So the length of the arrow is going to tell me the distance that my number has from 0 to its position. So what we're doing here is just imagine myself that any integer could be represented as an arrow whose length depends on the number given in the arrow. So in this case, if it's -6, it's an arrow pointing to the left because it's negative, positive pointed to the right, and negative pointing to the left, and the length of this arrow depends on the number, 6. And this is what we call the absolute value of an integer. The absolute value of an integer is just the length of this arrow. So if you understand what I'm talking about, what I'm doing is just telling you that an integer is an arrow, and the direction of the arrow tell me if it's positive or negative, and the length of the arrow, it's telling me the absolute value. What is the absolute value? The length of this arrow, or the position until it goes the arrow. So the number 5 in this case is going to be an arrow that goes from 0 to 5, moving to the right, and the number -6 is going to be from 0 to -6, moving to the left. Okay? So if you picture arrows, then adding integers or generalizing how to add integers may become easier for you. To sum up, the absolute value of an integer is just the distance that goes from 0 to my integer. And remember, the sign is going to tell you the direction of this arrow. This is one way to picture integers. As an exercise, I recommend you to tell me the absolute value. Now let's use a little bit of notation. What is the notation? The notation to tell the absolute value is to put these bars in between the number. So notation 5. In this case, the absolute value of -6, that is the distance from 0 to -6, is going to be 6. And then the sign is going to tell me that is an arrow moving to the left. And finally, I suggest you to work out these absolute values. Work out the absolute values of these numbers. What are the absolute value of -4, of 5, of 0, of -10, and -5? Work out the absolute values of these numbers. Write them in the comments. Let me know if this video helps you to understand a little bit about integers and how to get the absolute value of integers, that this is the beginning of adding any type of numbers, including integers. And write in the comments the answers and any question you have about this topic, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.